Okay, so what's left for 2024? You're telling me you want more? You want more of 2024? Well, yes. For me, I wanted to talk about what's left for 2024 with video games in terms of what I'm looking forward to playing, in terms of possible coverage, and also just a little bit more in terms of catch-up stuff. So let's look at the calendar. It is not super stacked with a lot of things that I'm personally into, but a couple of things stand out. The first one's an obvious one. I'll just rip the band-aid off with this. Stalker 2. I mean, come on, at this point, this one's like a no-brainer. This is releasing November 20th, actually, so not too far from when this video is going out, but I'm really interested in this one specifically because it's Stalker. Stalker is very unique still to this day. Stalker was a very distinct game on PC that had a long life, had a huge history of modders and cool stuff doing, like people doing things to the game. Gamma most recently has been pretty cool. A friend of mine, Andrew, has been checking that out. It's absolutely awesome. But the actual base of Stalker was just its own creative, cool, different, distinctly PC gaming thing. A hardcore kind of survival Chernobyl exclusion zone experience. There's still not a ton of games that like nail that feeling, so I'm excited to see with Stalker 2 how they continue that. How it seems like with this one, especially like we've spoken to the directors with Friends Per Second, the podcast, it does seem like they want to tell a story and they want to have a bigger, like more realistic, lived-in open world. So I'm just really excited to see how that can feel like both like modern, like a video game with modern technology and stuff like that, but also still feel distinctly Stalker. That's where the jury's still out, but I'm looking forward to discovering that. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised with this one, that it's not going to just feel like an accessible, regular old first-person shooter adventure. I still expect it to be very tight, challenging, and maybe even a little Euro janky, but that's kind of like the feel, that's kind of the charm of these games. And either way, just like looking at the environments and the visuals and stuff, like I am a grim person. Like I look at the landscape of the zone and I'm like, that's where I want to hang out. And I mean specifically like hunkering down with my PC, just like totally absorbed in it. I just want that escapism. That's why I'm looking forward to playing this one. Another one, Skydance's Behemoth. Behemoth is this like big new kind of AAA VR game adventure. Yes, I'm going to talk about VR for a minute because lately they've been having a lot of kind of bigger budget heavy hitters. I've talked about Batman Arkham Shadow. I've also talked about Metro Awakening in places, and I've had my eye on Behemoth. I don't know if it's going to land the same, but it does seem like a very big thing, kind of like an Asura's Wrath, just like a big mythological adventure. This time it's like you versus enemies, but also the focus on these big, massive behemoth creatures that I think could be pretty unique. Some of the people behind this game are from like traditional AAA games that I've liked some of their work. So I'm curious to see how this one all comes together. Also at this point, like I said, after Metro Awakening and Batman Arkham Shadow, I'm kind of just happy to be in my headset again sometimes. Also, it helps that like these games like have a little bit of a higher profile, so they're easier to cover. VR games are tricky to cover sometimes. So yeah, I'm curious to see how this one shakes out. I still don't know for sure if it's going to be good or not, but I'm going to check it out. It's releasing December 5th for PSVR 2 and Quest, and I guess PC VR later. PC VR is where I prefer to play my VR stuff. If I could, I would just rather have all my games running on PC and then strapped to my face, but yeah. The other VR game real quick is Alien Rogue Incursion. This is releasing December 19th for all the VR platforms, and it's from Survios, a developer publisher of VR experiences that none of them really ever really landed with me. They did Creed, like the Rise to Glory, the boxing game. They did a lot of like tie-in experiences like that. Some good, some bad, but either way, like as much as I'm not too familiar with their work, the fact that they're doing an Alien game, I think is a big deal, because I think if anything, and I think Alien Isolation proved this to a lot of people, the Alien experience is unique and incredible, and it can be kick-ass in VR. I mean, the Alien Isolation VR mods were really cool to see, the fan mods and stuff, that was really cool to see roll out. And yes, I think a from the ground up Alien VR experience just has a lot of potential, from the iconic imagery to the haunting dark halls that are just like what these types of movies are known for, to of course the radar, the sound, the blip, the gun, like all of that stuff is so iconic And it does belong in VR. I do want to spend some time in that. And I want to be terrified. I say that as somebody who, I love Aliens. I love James Cameron, but I also really like how creepy that first Alien movie was. So a VR version of that, yes, please. This one is interesting. I actually wish this released in October because it would have been the perfect like spooky time Halloween game, but Soul Reaver 1 and 2 remastered. This is pretty cool that this is happening. I don't know why I just never expected it. It just seems like a story, a series that was going to lay dormant forever. But this is a nice little perk up with it. This is the Legacy of Kain Raziel games. Like Soul Reaver 1 and 2 are cool. Games I very much enjoyed, but I was also more of a Kain person. I was more of a Blood Omen person, but still I enjoyed these, but I haven't really replayed them. And it's interesting, like I could replay them right now if I wanted to, but I don't know. This is a good, exciting reason to jump back into it. The visuals are cleaned up a little bit more like modern lighting and stuff like that. It seems like it might fall victim to what I've seen a lot of these types of HD remaster things where the color palette and the textures seem slightly off. I think the original looks a little moodier compared to this one. It looks a little brightened up, but still, that could just be me judging early from a couple of screenshots. I don't know. Either way, like I just want to jump into it. The world of Nosgoth and like all this stuff is very cool. And I think the biggest thing, and it's kind of how I'm feeling now with Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta, like that re-release whenever that happens, is a generation of people experiencing these games for the first time. Soul Reaver 1 and 2 are very 90s in a lot of ways. And I think that is special. I think that makes it stand out, feel a little bit different from the design of Raziel to the surprising depth of the story, the fun comic booky lore-ness of it, to just kind of like the horror-esque fantasy stuff. Like it's its own thing. And people have been begging for these games to come back because there's nothing else out there really like it. So I think this is a good opportunity. I think this is, as long as they don't screw it up, I think there's potential for some new people to check this out and maybe even fall in love with it. That's releasing December 10th. And I'm sticking with nostalgia because I am a sucker for nostalgia, like 90s nostalgia. I'll just be totally honest. Dude, life is short, whatever. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Rita's Rewind. This is right up my alley. It's right up my alley because I was surprised how hard it hit me. Shredder's Revenge. That was on my Game of the Year list. I think last year, was that when that came out? I loved it. I like beat 'em ups. I grew up playing these. So Shredder's Revenge, I was an easy mark for. And this is from a different studio. Like, don't get it twisted. This shouldn't be like directly compared to Shredder's Revenge. This is from Digital Eclipse though, which is pretty interesting. Digital Eclipse, of course, is like a legendary, famous American studio, a smaller studio, but had originally kind of gotten their start in Game Boy ports and Game Boy games. And so I feel like they understand the old school nature. They've done some interesting work more recently. I mean, they did the fantastic port of like the Lion King and Aladdin classic games to modern consoles. So I think they get it, but this is like a thing, like a fun new Power Rangers thing, but it's that OG Power Rangers that I grew up absolutely loving, dude. So again, like I said, easy mark for this stuff because of multiple reasons. 90s nostalgia, Power Rangers, which I grew up loving. Billy, the blue one, was my favorite. But then also beat 'em ups, brawler type, side scrolling. Love it. You can plug in a controller, play with a friend or two. I'm there. That's releasing December 10th. And then lastly, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I'm excited for this one. I like machine games. I like what they did with the Wolfenstein games. I like that there is kind of DNA of Chronicles of Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay in this game. Some of the people who originally worked on that game are with Machine Games, but just the feel of it, everything. And I like that they're just doing an Indiana Jones thing because Indiana Jones has a rich history with video games that I love. And I would like to see that come back. The idea, the core concept, the cinematic nature, everything about Indiana Jones just lends itself to video games so well. Just plot the dude in another globe-trotting adventure. That's it. So that's what they're doing here. And I like that. I also like from the trailers and stuff, like I haven't seen any previews or anything. I've been kind of going dark, but like the trailers and everything, like Troy Baker's doing a pretty good job. And I say this as someone who also, the last Indiana Jones movie, some people like loved it. And then some people absolutely hated it. It just didn't leave a lasting impression on me. It had some good moments, but I think the reality is I just want a good old regular swashbuckling indie adventure. And it seems like The Great Circle might give me that. Like it's just what the doctor ordered, especially if it's not like this like fluffed, padded, blown out, massive game. It is just a good, contained, really well done, well paced adventure that understands the core tenets and like cinematic value of an Indiana Jones adventure, like I'm in for that, especially from a developer that I have enjoyed. Yes, that co-op Wolfenstein game was not good, but those newer ones were pretty cool. Obviously from like a sweaty gameplay sense, but also like the cutscenes for the Wolf games, they were cinematic and weird. And it seems like they get that. Like they have the cinema chop here. So I'm excited that they're taking on Indiana Jones because I'm presumably hoping there's lots of cool cutscenes and stuff like that. But it's another way, in my opinion, for Indiana Jones to also like live on, because obviously Harrison Ford is getting really old, and I'm kind of getting tired of like the actors dragged out for one more thing. I've grown a little cynical to that, but I do feel like instead of seeing Indiana Jones as a CGI rendered man in a movie, I'd be much happier seeing him live on in video games forever. I don't know, it just feels more natural there. That's just me though. That's just like a weird rambling tangent. But like those are the last couple of games I'm personally looking forward to for 2024. There are some other things, so I want to hear yours, but it's also a catch-up time, right? So for me personally, just so you know, for context, like I wait till like the very end to try and make my game of the year list. And like, I know the Game Ranks team, we come together and make the game of the year list pretty late. So I try to cram in as much as possible. I can't see every single game, but I always try. So there's a couple of things that randomly I just want to kick back and play as November kind of quiets down, and December, I mean, that's not really quiet, all the games I just talked about, but you know what I mean. The Dragon Quest III HD remake just dropped, and I really want to play that. That just kind of looks up my alley. I like RPGs. I like JRPGs occasionally, and this seems like one I just would want to jump into. I've been really wanting to like really get into Dragon Quest, and this seems like a good one. Also, the fact that Blizzard just surprise dropped Warcraft games remastered, like Warcraft 1 and 2. That's cool. Those are the ones that like I stumbled upon as a kid, preloaded onto a PC, and I played them and I loved them. That was my first and real exposure to Warcraft. So I kind of went a little trip down memory lane there. Hopefully they didn't screw them up. I haven't seen reviews yet, but yeah. Also, Tactical Breach Wizards has just gotten a lot of buzz. A lot of people have been telling me about it, like colleagues and stuff, and it just seems like something cool, definitely worth my time, and still wakes the deep. This one was on my radar before it came out, and now it's out. I hadn't had time to really jump into it fully, but I'm looking forward to doing that because I want to see this adventure through because it's weird. Also, currently I am playing through Neva. This is that kind of 2D side-scrolling action adventure game with the incredible art from the people behind Gris. Gris was a little more abstract, a little more weird. This is very much more an adventure game where it's you and your dog wolf companion thing. That's probably going to make me cry at the end. So far, the art is really fantastic. I don't know if I'm going to cover it more in videos, but I'm going to try. So yeah. Also, like, I'll be honest, I like this year, you may have noticed, like with Before You Buys on Game Ranks, I've tried to delegate and not take on every single game because like I burnt myself out. So I actually missed a couple of big ones myself. I didn't cover Dragon's Dogma 2 and I didn't cover Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And I am a Final Fantasy person, but I haven't jumped into that game barely at all. So I'm looking forward to trying to find time to cram in Rebirth. I know it's a tall order before the end of the year, but you know, I want to try. So that's a lot of games for December. And the point with me talking about these other things I wanted to catch up on or cram in was to prove the point that like, while yes, December, like end of November, December seems like a quiet release schedule, there's always something else to play. That's just how it goes, at least for me. So let me know what you think in the comments about the end of the year. What's shaping up? You know, are there any games you're going to get? Maybe just one? I don't know. I want to hear what it is, so at least I know what you're interested in. But let me know what you think. Let me know what games you're catching up on currently. If you already have sort of a game of the year list kind of you're working on, you know, your own personal picks, I'd love to hear that. But hit me up. Thank you though. If you came here and watched this and listened to me ramble this long, I'm just talking about stuff I like, stuff I enjoy. I think that's good to put on the internet. So if you get that, clicking a like button helps me out. Thank you as always. But until next time, I'm Jake Baldino. Subscribe because video games, pizza's on me.